I would get 0 out of 100s, and I would get 50 out of 100s, and I would fail them. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Jacqueline, and I'm so excited to be back on YouTube. I'm currently on summer vacation, which is so weird because it's the beginning of May, and I'm usually used to having summer vacation in like mid-June, so I get more summer vacation, which makes me very excited. But if you do not know who I am, this is the very first video you've clicked on. I have dyslexia and dyscalculia. I've been professionally diagnosed with them both. Those two are learning disabilities, and there's not a lot of people who talk about learning disabilities openly online, but I'm one of them. I want to start off by saying thank you so very much to every single person who has subscribed to my YouTube channel, because I have over 100 subscribers right now, which I'm just so thankful for. I've been wanting to reach this milestone for a very long time. And if you have not subscribed already, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you do not miss when I post new videos. I hope it becomes a little bit more regular this summer, but who knows? I'm just trying my best. But anyways, yeah, thank you so much, and one reason why I'm so excited is because I wrote a note to myself when I hit 100 subscribers to open. It says, "To Jacqueline, open when you hit 100 subscribers. I'm so proud of you." And then on the back it says, "Tempting. Hey, no cheating." So I'm actually not cheating. I do have 100 subscribers, and I'm gonna open this letter with you all right now. I figured we have to start off on a lighter note because this video will be pretty deep and very personal and vulnerable. So let's open this letter. I honestly think it might be from December 2023, but I have no idea what it says. Okay, so the date is January 18th, 2023. So you can maybe see that. It says, "Dear future me, girl, I am so proud of you." I actually am very proud of myself too. "I knew that you could achieve 100 subscribers. Woo woo! I wonder how long it took you, because right now you have 2 YouTube videos posted and 8 subscribers. You cannot quit." "I know you may be feeling low, but you are incredible. So many people will really relate to your content. I'm always rooting for you, even though our paths will never cross, because I'm from the past." That's hilarious, but of course I would write that. It says, "What was your favorite YouTube video to film? Write it here." Oh! Future Jacqueline knows what's up. I have filmed some videos with my mom, and it's been very special to get her side of things and then also say my side of things. So I've liked those videos a lot because it's like a little time capsule with me and my mom. And then it says, "What is a goal of yours for a future video? Write it here." Oh my gosh, I'll have to do that. I guess a goal of mine, I'm not sure. I think interviewing some of my professors who have dyslexia and dyscalculia, that would be pretty cool. And now we are continuing on to the second page. You guys, oh my god, there's more questions on the back. I didn't even know this. "Are you happy that you switched to YouTube? I still do TikTok, but I do love YouTube because it's longer content and I get to blab way more. So I love that. Has your imposter syndrome left you?" Nope, I'm still getting imposter syndrome on TikTok and on here, but I try very hard. "Has your mom appeared on the YouTube channel yet?" Yes, she has. I think on 2 videos. And then it says, "Do you believe in yourself?" Of course I believe in myself, past Jacqueline. I'm always trying to believe in myself. Here we go. It says, "Right now I'm just starting off, but I have a big hopes and dreams that my account will help so many people. I really want to learn about editing and how to do it better. Baby steps though. I use Canva right now. Maybe we'll switch to a bigger platform, but who knows? It's going quite well. I need to remember that I'm only 16. Right now I'm only 18, but I'm turning 19 soon." It says, "I can't possibly know everything there is about learning disabilities. My lived experience can help people." That is so true. This is my own journey, my own story, and that's all I can provide to people. And some extra help and tips. "I add value to the learning disability community, and I am intelligent." Aw, that's sweet. It's true. "I'm not a phony because I have to research my topics. It means that I'm giving the community accurate information." Yes. I can't believe I ever thought that I was a phony. I'm definitely not. "And even though I've had tutoring, I still struggle, and I can tell people that tutoring is helpful and share techniques with my supporters." Here I am sharing that tutoring is very, very helpful. "I'm so happy you made it to 100 subscribers. That seems so far away, but I know you will kill it with your content. Everything happens for a reason. Growth takes time." And then it says, "The date that I hit 100 subscribers." Oh my gosh, I'm excited to fill this in later. That was very fun. And as I said, this was January 18th, 2023, so it's taken me a lot, but I also have not been consistent with YouTube, but that was really, really sweet to read. Now let's get deep, because I have a lot of stuff to tell you. We're gonna move on from the happy topic and talk about something very personal and vulnerable, which is I experienced educational trauma. My first video back on YouTube in quite a bit. I would just like to tell you that this happened. It's still very hard for me to discuss, but I just feel like it will be therapeutic for me to tell you. Maybe it will help others feel less alone if they've experienced something similar. And I just feel ready to share this part of my story, so let's get into it. You can expect to hear about 3 different things. I'm going to be telling you about a specific class where I experienced the educational trauma. I'm going to be then transitioning to tell you how it impacted my learning disabilities and my mental health. And the very last thing I'll discuss is the huge decision that I had to make. I just got done with my freshman year of college, which is really bonkers because that means I'm a rising sophomore, which I cannot believe. Like, how did I just complete freshman year? I don't know. It went by really fast. But I did not think that something like this would happen second semester, but alas, here we are, and I'm telling you the story. So buckle up and get ready. It's a big one. So this class I took was a social science class, and I just would like to reiterate, I know probably a lot of you guys watching this know that of my learning disabilities, but having dyslexia and dyscalculia for me have strongly impacted the way that I can understand math and science concepts my entire life. Just the material does not click with my brain. To set the scene, for this specific class I had about 15 to 20 pages, roughly, to read each week for this class. And that was a lot of reading material. And it was even harder because basically all of it was scientific or it was research articles, and your girl does not know anything about scientific and research articles, okay? I don't know how to read them properly. I was reading word for word, and apparently you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to jump around because certain sections you really have to know as a person reading the article, and other sections you can skim over. So I was working overtime already, okay? Right off the bat, I was working overtime. Then in class, I learned that there are certain sections you don't really have to read, you can skim, so I was like, okay, hallelujah, that's incredible. And even with the extra help from my professor, like explaining, you don't have to read everything, it was still very downhill. The material was so dense and so difficult for me to understand because, first of all, I'm not a science person, we know this. My learning disabilities make scientific articles very hard to comprehend just right off the bat because it's a lot to pay attention to and like what information do I really need to know versus I don't really need to know that. And the whole thing was overwhelming to say the least, just always having to read these articles and always not understanding everything. The way I went about reading these articles was I used Speechify. Now, I had to pay for this myself, but honestly, it is something that I cannot say fabulous words enough about. I would upload the online article, I would listen along, and I would kind of understand at some points, but I didn't other times, and I was reading, and I was listening, and I was paying attention. I just could not grasp the material. No matter how many times I reread the same paragraph, the end result was, I do not know what I'm reading right now. And I brought this up to my parents, and they were very supportive, and they mentioned that I should probably go to some office hours, so that's what I did. I would shimmy my way up 5 flights of stairs, and I would go to my professor's office hours. My professor was very nice, don't get me wrong, but when I explained my situation of having learning disabilities, because I think that's very important for professors to know, in my opinion, I did mention dyscalculia, and this person did not know what dyscalculia is, which is totally fair because not a lot of people know what dyscalculia is. And I mentioned dyslexia, and I said how they impacted me during this class, which I'll get into. And I was offered some advice, which I tried to take, and in the end, it just kept on not working for me. But the real kicker, the real thing that was just so unbelievably challenging for me was our in-class quizzes / in-class questions. Each and every day in class, we had about 3 to 5 questions to answer regarding these reading material or the lectures. And again, as I just mentioned, as I just ranted to you, the reading was so complicated for me to understand because it went in one ear and out the other. A lot of these questions were short answer questions, and I already kind of struggle with writing my thoughts out appropriately because I'm like, I know what I'm trying to say up here, but writing it down is hard. That is a sign of learning disabilities, is not really knowing how to gather your thoughts appropriately on the page. So I would look at these questions and I was like, I think I know what the answer is, so I would try my best to write it out. And sometimes, the occasional time, we had like circle the correct answer. You know, what is this called? Multiple choice answers. And I thought, the correct answer is here. I feel pretty confident about it because I feel like I'm circling the right answer. Let me tell you, I was getting them wrong. Not only the short answer questions, but also the multiple choice questions. And I would get 0 out of 100s, and I would get 50 out of 100s, and I would fail them. We're going to get into the second half of this video, which is about how this class actually impacted my learning disabilities. Just for more information, let's talk about note-taking first of all. For these readings, we had to note-take. And so I would open a Google document and I would write down information that I thought would potentially be on this questions that she would ask. I would say a lot of notes, okay? I kept writing. I was like, I don't know what question she's gonna ask. Let me just put it all out there on Google Docs. It was bad. It was not good. But the reason why note-taking was so hard is because in high school I had note takers, or I would have my teacher's notes given to me ahead of time. I did not have to do a single thing except sit still and look pretty when it came to note-taking. And that was because of my learning disabilities. I had an accommodation for that. So that was taken care of. That was great. In college, I still got accommodations. I could record my lectures, and I could kind of have note-taking help, but like not really. Basically, I had to do note-taking myself. The hard part of these in-class questions is I didn't get a lot of time to complete them, so I really had to have good notes to like skim and then be like, oh, there's my answer, here it is. And I couldn't use quotes from the articles, so I had to put everything in my words, which makes sense, but I also have a hard time doing that when I'm reading material that is like gibberish to me. It's like a foreign language. Having that material and understanding it is one thing. Then you have to understand and you have to process it and explain it in your own words is a whole nother thing. And both of those things I'm not good at, which I have learned and I kind of knew, but it was reinforced that those are not a strong area of mine. For my dyslexia specifically, reading the questions being asked to me, actually this ties into dyscalculia too. I would interpret it incorrectly. Almost all of the things that I got back as of like 0 or 50 out of 100s, in the margin my professor wrote, you did not answer the question I asked, or you interpreted this wrong. And I would hear that constantly in her class. And it's like, no duh, okay, I know I'm interpreting it wrong, but help me out. And she did. She did try her best to help me out with interpreting it the right way, but in the end, my brain just misread information. I filled in words that weren't there. I pretended like I knew what I was doing, and I really didn't. And one thing about me, you should know, is directions, whether it's left and right or literally just explaining like what you have to do, is so hard for me. It's the bane of my existence. Directions and me, we are enemies. We don't like each other. And we have to form a better relationship because right now it's hard out here, okay? The questions for these quizzes, I would be like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm trying to say. Or maybe I didn't. And I wrote it down and I handed it in and I'd get it back and it was wrong and I would be so confused, like how the heck did I get this wrong? And it's because I just kept interpreting the questions wrong. And that goes into dyscalculia because some of them were also multiple step questions in like one little paragraph. So I had to know that I had to do this answer this question first, boom. Then I have to answer this second question first, boom. And I have to answer the third question, lastly, boom. And I'd sometimes get to the first question, then the last question, or things along the lines. Finally, one of the classes, I'm going up to my professor and I'm saying, I keep interpreting this wrong, what do I do? And my professor is like, it could be the way you're taking notes is not good. And it's like, not your fault. So many people who are freshmen do not know how to take good notes. And I'm like, that probably checks out, professor. So I made an appointment to go to office hours and show my professor the notes, fully knowing they were bad, okay? I knew it. I knew that they were not good. And I showed my professor, and she's like, basically just saying that I have too many words on the page, and it makes sense as to why I keep getting this wrong because I don't have enough time to check my notes and answer the questions. These quizzes were timed, and I was never the last one turning in my paper, but I was also so nervous of like being the last one, and I was so nervous of this time crunch, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I just tried my best to figure it out of like what to write down and hand it in. And sometimes, you guys, I have to tell you, sometimes I really thought that I got the question right. I walked out of that classroom, I was like, I just aced that. And I get it back the very next day and it was wrong. The mental toll of like really feeling solid and boom, it was wrong. Really feeling solid and boom, it was wrong, was a lot to process and a lot to handle. And that's just like a small glimpse of like educational trauma that I went through. Back to the story. So I went to my professor's office hours, and sure enough, my notes were definitely not good, and that's maybe one reason why my questions were getting wrong constantly. So then I literally changed the way I took notes. I was with my mom. We did research on how to take good notes. I had advice from my professor, and I changed the way I took notes. And again, I thought that I was getting some of these questions right when I walked out of the classroom, and I'd walk back in the next day, I'd get it back, and maybe part of it was right and part of it was wrong. It was very rare that I would get a 100 on these quizzes. No matter how many times I went to my professor's office hours and I really wanted to prove like I can do this, you know, I've changed so many things for you, I'm trying to listen to your advice, I'm trying to take into consideration what you're saying. I was getting a C in the class, and going from someone in high school with all A's and B's on my report card to having a C, that does something to you. I am fully aware that a C is not bad and that it's still passing, but I have this like internalized ableism maybe, and I just put too much emphasis on the grades that I get. And I know that's something I need to work on, and I'm going to therapy soon, so I will work on that. But going from someone who had like a high academic performance to like falling to a C, even though I was trying my very hardest, it really just took a mental toll, and it was something that I just thought of constantly. Every single hour of every single waking day, I was like, I have a C in a class right now, I have a C in a class right now, this is so bad. So now we're at like the third chunk of the video, which is the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Just past the add drop period, which means like you can drop a class and it will not show up on your transcript, you will not have a W, which means withdrawal, and you can go on your merry little way, and that's totally fine. It was past that period. I had to make the decision of like, do I want to stay in this class? There's 6 more weeks when I was in this class, and I was counting. That was 18 more class periods, and I really truly thought I can do it. I need to prove to myself that I need to stay in this class. I put in all this mental work, like overtime. If I really crunch and I really study and I really just do all these other things, magically my C will turn to like a B, and then apparently I feel like in my brain I thought that I would be happy. No, that was not the case. One of the hardest things was I just felt like a failure if I were to drop the class, and I know that's something that I need to work through myself. I'm fully aware of that. When I got back from winter break, it was like 2 weeks later when this whole mess just occurred of having so much stress, so much anxiety, dreading going to the class. It was 3 times a week that I had to show up to that class. And I switched up my note-taking, and that wasn't doing anything. I went to office hours and I heard advice, and I'm sure the advice was great. As someone with learning disabilities, my professor didn't know these learning disabilities as well as I do because I have lived experience. And her advice, I think, would have been much helpful for someone who did not have learning disabilities. So I tried so hard. I tried so hard. And in the end, my body made the decision for me to literally like shut down, to not do well mentally, and prove that I could not stay in this class because it was just deteriorating everything in me. I decided to drop the class. I went through all of this work to just drop. Like, that was like one thing in my brain was like, I put in all this effort, and in the end, I'm not even getting credit for it. I'm just dropping a class. And what I am getting is a withdrawal on my transcript, which I have to tell you now, that's not a big deal at all. It's really not a big deal. But the other reason why I dropped was because this specific class did not go towards my major, and I thought for a very long time that it was giving me a gen ed requirement. Come to find out, it was not giving me a gen ed requirement. So therefore, I was in this class for no reason. It took a very long time for me to actually come to the conclusion and go through the process. It was so scary. I hated every minute of it. It was challenging beyond belief, and it gave me a lot of educational trauma being in that class and going through the process and crying because I thought that I was a failure for dropping, and I thought that I was so stupid. I had not used the term stupid towards myself since I was like 14, but the negative self-talk creeped in. So to conclude this story, it was very necessary that I dropped, and I felt better afterwards, but I still had these moments of just thinking about this class so much that it also like consumed me. I think that also goes into the educational trauma. Like, I'm still not fully healed from dealing with all of what I dealt with. I'm glad to share this story because I hope that it does help others. If you've made it this far, to change the gear, and you would like to subscribe, please, please, please hit the subscribe button down below. I'm also on the road to 10,000 followers on TikTok. I'm at a little over 6,000. So please, if you'd like to be a kind stranger and follow my TikTok, it's also about learning disabilities. I'll leave it on the screen, and I'd appreciate you forever. But I guess that wraps it up. I can't wait to see you on the next video.